The world is a vast and diverse place, full of incredible beauty and inspiring landscapes, but not all parts of the globe are welcoming. There are regions where danger is a constant companion, whether from the threat of violence, natural disasters, or extreme environmental conditions. These areas, often scarred by conflict, poverty, or environmental catastrophe, stand as stark reminders of the fragility of peace and the ever-present challenges facing humanity. Today we explore the 10 most dangerous places on Earth, delving into the heart of these troubled regions to understand the complexities that have made them perilous. But our journey into the world's most dangerous places begins in Syria, a nation scarred by a brutal and protracted civil war. Since 2011, this once vibrant country has been locked in a devastating conflict that has claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands and displaced millions. The conflict is a tangled web of alliances and rivalries, with the Syrian government, various rebel groups, foreign powers, and extremist organizations all vying for control. The relentless fighting has left cities in ruins, with Aleppo, once a bustling economic hub, now a haunting testament to the war's brutality. The dangers in Syria are manifold. The constant threat of airstrikes, shelling, and sniper fire makes simply moving around incredibly risky. The conflict has also seen the use of chemical weapons, adding another layer of horror to an already dire situation. Landmines and unexploded ordnance litter the countryside, posing a deadly threat to civilians long after the fighting has ceased.
The humanitarian crisis in Syria is one of the worst in recent history. Millions have fled their homes, seeking refuge in neighboring countries or making the perilous journey to Europe. Those who remain face shortages of food, clean water, and medical care. Despite the immense challenges, glimmers of hope emerge from the ruins.
We journey now to Afghanistan, a landlocked nation in South-Central Asia, where rugged mountains and arid plains bear witness to a long and tumultuous history. For decades, Afghanistan has been caught in the throes of conflict, a cycle of violence that has left its people yearning for peace. The Soviet-Afghan War in the 1980s, followed by the US-led invasion in 2001 and the recent return of the Taliban to power, have left the country deeply scarred and its future uncertain. The security situation in Afghanistan remains volatile, with various armed groups, including the Taliban and ISIS-Khorasan, operating within its borders. These groups pose a significant threat to civilians and security forces alike, carrying out attacks that spread fear and instability. The threat of improvised explosive devices, suicide bombings, and targeted assassinations casts a dark shadow over daily life in Afghanistan.
Beyond the immediate dangers of conflict, Afghanistan faces a myriad of challenges. Poverty is widespread, with many struggling to afford basic necessities. The country's infrastructure, ravaged by years of war, remains underdeveloped, hindering economic growth and access to essential services. The ongoing drought has exacerbated food insecurity, leaving millions vulnerable to hunger and malnutrition. Despite these formidable challenges, the Afghan people have shown remarkable resilience in the face of adversity. There is a deep-seated desire for peace and stability, a hope for a future where their children can live free from fear and violence.
Our journey takes us now to the Horn of Africa, to the nation of Somalia, a land where the azure waters of the Indian Ocean lap against a coastline riven by conflict and instability. For much of the past few decades, Somalia has been trapped in a cycle of civil war and lawlessness, becoming synonymous with chaos and despair. The collapse of the central government in 1991 plunged the country into anarchy, creating a void that was quickly filled by warring factions and extremist groups. One of the most formidable of these groups is Al-Shabaab, an Islamist militant organization that has waged a brutal insurgency against the fragile Somali government and its international partners. Al-Shabaab, meaning the youth in Arabic, seeks to establish a strict Islamic state in Somalia and has been responsible for countless attacks targeting civilians, government officials, and security forces. Their reign of terror has left Somalia one of the most dangerous places on earth.
The threat from al-Shabaab extends far beyond Somalia's borders. The group has carried out attacks in neighboring Kenya and has aspirations to strike targets further afield. Their ability to recruit and radicalize individuals, particularly young people, makes them a persistent danger both within Somalia and internationally. The ongoing conflict has had a devastating impact on Somalia's people. Millions have been displaced from their homes, forced to live in overcrowded camps where access to basic necessities is scarce. Despite the immense challenges, there are glimmers of hope for Somalia.
Our exploration of dangerous places now takes us to North America, to the vibrant and culturally rich nation of Mexico. While renowned for its stunning beaches and ancient ruins, Mexico harbors a dark underbelly of violence fueled by powerful drug cartels.
Certain regions, especially along major drug trafficking routes, have become synonymous with danger and violence. States like Guerrero, Sinaloa, and Michoacan have some of the highest homicide rates due to brutal turf wars.
The cartels operate with impunity, their power reaching deep into society. They corrupt officials, intimidate journalists, and terrorize communities. Kidnappings, extortion, and human trafficking are grim realities.
The government has deployed the military to combat the cartels with mixed results. Despite some successes, the violence continues, fueled by the demand for illegal drugs.
The violence in Mexico is a complex issue with no easy solutions. It is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of the global drug trade. Despite the challenges, brave individuals and organizations work tirelessly to combat the cartels and promote peace. Our journey now takes us to East Asia, to the isolated and secretive nation of North Korea. Officially known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, this reclusive nation is ruled by an iron fist.
North Korea is ruled by Kim Jong-un, the third generation of his family to lead the country. The government exerts total control over all aspects of life. Dissent is not tolerated, and those who challenge the regime face severe consequences.
North Korea's isolation is both self-imposed and a result of international sanctions. The country has conducted 6 nuclear tests, sparking international condemnation. The development of long-range missiles has heightened tensions.
Despite international pressure, North Korea shows no signs of abandoning its nuclear ambitions. The military-first policy has come at a high cost to its people.
The situation in North Korea is complex and concerning. Its unpredictable behavior and nuclear capabilities make it a potential flashpoint for conflict. Our journey into the heart of danger now takes us to South America, to the once prosperous nation of Venezuela, a country grappling with a devastating economic and political crisis. Once a beacon of hope and stability in Latin America, Venezuela has been brought to its knees by government mismanagement and corruption. Reliance on oil exports has left the country vulnerable. Hyperinflation has ravaged the value of the Venezuelan bolivar, making even basic necessities unaffordable. The healthcare system has collapsed, with hospitals lacking basic supplies. The political situation is equally dire, with accusations of authoritarianism and corruption. Millions have fled, creating a refugee crisis in neighboring nations. Our journey through the world's most dangerous places now leads us to Honduras, a country grappling with violence, poverty, and corruption. Despite its beauty and heritage, Honduras is plagued by gang violence, drug trafficking, and lawlessness. Powerful gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 control major cities, driving one of the highest murder rates in the world. These gangs engage in extortion, drug trafficking, human smuggling, and murder. Their brutal tactics have terrorized communities, leaving many in fear. The government, weakened by corruption, struggles to contain the violence. The police are often seen as ineffective and corrupt. Some communities have formed vigilante groups to protect themselves. Violence is fueled by poverty, inequality, and the flow of illegal drugs and weapons. Honduras is a major transit point for cocaine, enriching gangs and expanding their influence. Many flee the country seeking safety and opportunity elsewhere. The journey north is perilous, with migrants often falling victim to traffickers and harsh conditions. Our journey takes us to the Democratic Republic of Congo, a resource-rich nation grappling with conflict and humanitarian crisis. Despite its mineral wealth, the DRC remains one of the poorest countries, trapped in violence and poverty. Decades of conflict fueled by mineral wealth have plagued the DRC. The Congo wars left millions dead and displaced. Violence continues in the eastern provinces with armed groups like the Lord's Resistance Army. The conflict targets civilians with brutal tactics. Rape and torture leave deep psychological scars. Child soldiers are forced into unspeakable acts. The humanitarian crisis is one of the worst in the world. Millions live in overcrowded camps with limited resources. Despite challenges, there are glimmers of hope. The international community supports peace and reconciliation efforts. Our exploration of the world's most dangerous places now takes us to Iraq, a country etched with the scars of war and grappling with decades of conflict. Once the cradle of civilization, Iraq has endured devastating wars and internal strife, leaving its people yearning for peace. The 2003 US-led invasion toppled Saddam Hussein, plunging Iraq into chaos and sectarian violence. The rise of ISIS in 2014 further destabilized the country, imposing brutal rule and committing atrocities. While ISIS has been largely defeated, its ideology remains a threat. The conflict has devastated Iraq's infrastructure and economy. Millions are displaced, and the country struggles to rebuild. The political situation remains fragile, with deep sectarian divisions and endemic corruption. Despite challenges, there are signs of hope as the government works to rebuild and reconcile. Our final destination is a silent and eerie landscape, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of technological disaster. We travel to the Chernobyl exclusion zone, the site of the world's worst nuclear accident. On April 26, 1986, reactor number 4 exploded, spewing radioactive material into the atmosphere. The explosion released a plume of radioactive material that spread across Europe. The immediate aftermath was catastrophic. Pripyat, once home to 50,000 people, was evacuated overnight, becoming a ghost town. The Chernobyl exclusion zone remains largely uninhabited, a testament to the enduring legacy of the disaster. These 10 locations represent some of the most dangerous places on Earth, each for different reasons. Whether due to ongoing armed conflict, criminal activity, or environmental hazards, these regions present grave risks to anyone who ventures into them. While some may be slowly recovering from years of war or disaster, others remain mired in conflict and instability. For those seeking safety and security, it's clear that these places should be avoided at all costs. The stories we have explored are not just tales of danger and despair, but also testaments to the resilience of the human spirit. Even in the darkest of places, amidst the ruins of war or the shadow of disaster, hope flickers. There are individuals and communities working tirelessly to rebuild their lives, to create a better future for themselves and their children. There are organizations and